right. Good afternoon, folks. It is 4 o'clock. I will call the City Plan Commission meeting to order. I'll call the roll. Mike? Kevin? Joe? Jerry? Braden? All right. If folks could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any conflicts of interest needing to be noted this afternoon? Hearing none. All right. Just notice of potential fraud, I guess, just for folks in the audience that are applicants for projects. Just be wary of any phishing attempts or fake emails claiming to be the city, asking for payment online, clicking links. The city does not do that. There have been some bad actors out there impersonating the city. So if you have any questions, if you get strange emails, please call the Planning and Development Office. Thank you. Next, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded on approval of the minutes. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval state aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Chair votes aye. The minutes are approved. All right, we have a few public hearings today, so just kind of a quick run of show. So public hearings are going to be an opportunity for the public. If any neighbors have questions on any of the projects, you can come up and ask and state your comments for the commission. And then when we get into the discussion, staff will give the report, and commissioners will be able to ask questions as well. So first public hearing is regarding the conditional use permit for Eucatastrophe Distilling, I hope I got that right, to operate a craft distillery at 1619 Calumet Drive. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard on this item? Anyone from the public wishing to be heard? Last call. Any members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the hearing, state aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Chair votes aye. That hearing is closed. Next, item 7, public hearing regarding application for conditional use permit by Jake's Liquor to operate a food truck business located at 2019 South Business Drive. Anyone from the public on this item wishing to be heard? All right, if you want to come up to the podium. And whichever one, yeah. If you just want to state your name, address, and then you can give your feedback for about 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Jim Warner, 1608 Union Avenue. We already have a taco van near that location, and it's increased the traffic in our alley quite a bit. It's like a street now. And I think that the area is already saturated with taco trucks or whatever. I don't think we need another one. That's basically all I have to say.
All right? Thank you. Yep.
My name is Jorge. I am the owner of the Punter Wheel. I need to take the permit parking permanent in the J League where I have agreement for putting here. My business is the fusion Latin food. I need to make for all Sheboygan take my food, right? I only needed the permit parking in the J Liquor. In the J Liquor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name is Claudia Villavicencio. I'm on 1934 South 16th Street, and I'm directly right behind the taco truck that's already currently there. I have young children. There's a lot of traffic going through there. Jake's Liquor really doesn't take good care of their property as it is. It's not well taken care of. There's just too much going on right there. It's for the safety of all the kids that are in the neighborhood. And I just want, to let you guys know that it's just a little bit concerning with all the traffic that's happening and people there so like late in the night, urinating on our property. We've got it on camera, on security cameras. It's too much for us, and we don't feel safe because of people with alcohol and stuff in the area. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Denise Bowman. I own 1612 Union Avenue, which is a rental property right now, but I have lived there myself for multiple years. I do take very good care of my property, and we have a really good neighborhood community there right now. All the neighbors look out for each other. There are a few neighbors that I did talk to that are not here as well tonight. Couple things that I kind of made a list of the issues. Right now, Jake's does not paint or take care of their property now. If you drive past there today, it's not shoveled. They do not shovel the alley, or cut their grass or take care of the garbage in the front. It currently looks starting to look like a ghetto if you look at the Jake's and next door to Jake's. The property next door to Jake's, the neighbors had caught also somebody breaking in to that building, as well as pooping in their backyard. The neighbor next door to me constantly has taco truck people sitting in her yard. There's homeless people. To me personally, I don't even live there, and I do like that their food. Went to the taco truck and had a homeless person ask me for money. They have people coming up to them, selling flowers for money. They're open late. All of the businesses in that area close at 10 o'clock. I think the major thing is they're open till after bar close, which then brings drunk people into the area. There's too much traffic. There's rocks all down the alley from the other taco truck. Let's see. We have previously also tried to talk to the existing taco truck that is there currently about the traffic that is already an issue. The other taco truck does not take care of their property. They are also parking vehicles not on the concrete, in the dirt, which there are other people that in that area that have gotten notices that they had to put concrete driveways in to not park on the drive or the dirt. There's garbage all over the yard. And it just looks horrible. It looks terrible. If you drive past that corner, I can say it's probably the worst looking corner in the city.
Okay, anyone else wishing to be heard on this item? Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none, is there a motion to close this hearing?
So moved?
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the hearing, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Chair votes aye. That hearing is closed. Next, item 8, public hearing regarding conditional use permit by Wild Cart Food LLC to operate a food business located at 1301 Michigan Avenue. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard?
Good afternoon, I'm Robert Lyons, 2746 North 29th Street. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the City Planning Commission. I'm here to discuss the conditional use permit application for Wild Card Food LLC at 1301 Michigan Avenue. This being a neighboring property to the business I own, I was only informed Monday, December 8th, through a letter in the mail about the application and its requests. I feel this is unreasonable timeline for matters of this importance and magnitude from the commission. I would like to see this reviewed for further requests to be at least 5 business days, if that can be done, because it's kind of a, if you look at the background of this application, for me getting the mail yesterday at roughly noon to do a little research and get back here by 4 o'clock seemed a little tight. Just wanted to kind of let you know that it should be a little bit more timeline for the neighbors to kind of do their research. At a quick glance, I was thrilled to see what looked to be a food store going into the property across from my business, nearly a quarter century of being vacant, for sale, or in disrepair. To my surprise, when I read the application to find out the real conditional application is for its general operation. The owner plans on spending less than $1,000 for its repair and plans on operating it 24 hours, 7 days a week as a private club with crypto-paying owners as members while having a bar and grill on site. Beneath the facade of this Wild Card Food LLC, one would lead one to believe or concur he is trying to run a private poker gambling operation. Thus, I am opposed to its current application for the conditional use permit as it is permitted. In regards to the condition of the property, if you would kindly look at it using Google Maps, 1301 Michigan Avenue, and click on the street view, you can clearly see what the neighboring businesses and residents would like to see this property preferably revitalized and/or raised. There is a similar property in better visible condition on Erie Avenue, the previous EBCO building, that was being used as a multi-use space with tenants, and that was condemned, had its tenants evicted, and is currently for sale. Thank you for your thoughts, and I appreciate being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard on this item? Anyone else wishing to be heard? Last call. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the hearing, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Chair votes aye. That hearing is closed. All right. We're going to jump into our items for discussion and possible action. Item 9, application for conditional use permit by Eucatastrophe Distilling to operate a craft distillery at 1619 Calumet Drive. Jeff, you have the staff report?
Yeah, so the applicant, the area is zoned urban commercial district. The applicant is, it's eligible under a conditional use on the property. The applicant is going to make a substantial investment into the property, and so.
All right. Is the applicant here? Any additional comments you all would like to add, or any questions for the commissioners, or? All right. Questions from commission members? Motions from commission members? Or Kevin?
One question for you, and this is a little separate from this, but have you looked at what your wastewater usage is going to be? Have you communicated any of that with the wastewater group?
Yeah, so we have a distillery consultant team that has.
Can't hear.
Can you come up to the mic?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
So we have a distillery consultant company that we've been working with, and they looked at the wastewater on that property and said that we're within the city parameters. I'm not exactly sure the details on it, but we can get that to you if that's something you need.
Yeah, as we move forward, we'll definitely need that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Question I have, are you going to be specializing in certain spirits?
Kind of across the board, not tequila or rum to start, but kind of all other spirits, liqueurs, definitely brown aged spirits as well as gin and vodka.
Perfect. Thanks. Jerry?
Thank you. Question, with regards to the layout of the site, can you walk us through what you're looking at as far as buffer zones for, between you and the neighbors, fencing that you plan on putting in, and ingress egress out of the lot?
This is one of our architect team members.
Audrey Grill, member of the architecture team. So we did meet with Elise for a pre-meeting to understand the different zoning requirements for buffering from neighbors, and our understanding is that because it's an existing site and with a lot of the existing use on the site actually not changing, for example, the existing surface parking is largely remaining surface parking, so we would not need to add additional buffering to that. That being said, it is the owner's wish to make this a really beautiful and welcoming atmosphere to guests and to the community alike. So there is the intent to add landscaping that is not there currently on the site. At the site today, currently, it's just all paved. So there will be some landscaping added. Yeah.
And can you walk us through what the hours for the facility will be?
Yeah, they were part of our permit, which I don't have in front of me right now, but I believe we close by 9 p.m. at the latest, weekend and weekday.
Okay.
Our goal is not to be open super late, you know, being this big bar that has drunk people all around. We're going to be a luxury establishment that closes pretty early.
And obviously, it's a free market society, which I totally encourage, but given that you're going to be so close to another distillery, a la whatever you want to name it, do you have any concerns about competition, unnecessary competition, or you just kind of, you've got a business plan, you believe it will work for the position you're at?
You said so close to what?
The beer, Hops Haven, which is right up the road, something similar, and then there's other proposals around town. Do you have any concerns about longevity?
Yeah, the other proposal that we're familiar with is not an actual distillery that will be distilling spirits on site. It's more of a tap room of an existing distillery in Wisconsin. So we're not worried about competition with them. As far as competition with other businesses, we're completely different. We're going to be distilling our own spirits, having our own event space, you know, venue. It's not going to be anything similar to like Three Sheeps or Hops Haven or anything like that. It's going to be, you know, we're going to have tours on site and kind of our own business plan.
Okay. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yep.
Mike?
So for the projecting about 24,000 to 40,000 people showing up every day, it's a very car-centric area, that plot of land. But it's also right adjacent to a bike path. Is there any plan for accommodating bikers and walkers in the area to show up to the business?
Yeah, we would love to do that. We actually are investors in the bike program in our area in Port Washington, and we'd love to help the city invest in biking and pedestrian areas in Sheboygan too.
All right, another hardball question from the mayor. Are you guys going to be having any food?
So that's something we've been debating. We don't want to have bad food and become known for having bad food. So we've, you know, played with either having like small plates, just like pizza oven appetizers, or just doing kind of the Three Sheeps model where we have food trucks.
Cool.
So that's something we've been kind of playing with.
Okay.
The cost to add a full service kitchen is not cheap, so.
Yeah, no worries. Other questions, motions? Kim?
I have a question. What are you envisioning with your event space, please?
Yeah, so we're gonna have two greenhouses, kind of framing the property and hiding Quick Trip from the actual distillery, because we didn't want that eyesore for when we're enjoying our spirits. So we're planning to have one greenhouse that is available as a venue if people want to have weddings or music events or something. But we haven't really worked out like the intimate details of all that yet.
How many people are you envisioning to accommodate?
That's a great question. I don't have that number for you right now.
Just by size of the building and whatnot, I didn't know if you
Less
might-
than 150, I would say.
Thank you.
Other questions? Alderwoman Gravine?
This is literally my backyard.
Alonza, you want to come to a mic? Or you can sit up here.
I didn't see anything in the plan that was talking about having, it being an event venue. What size events are we speaking about? Other than the parking that's on site, there isn't a lot of parking in the area. We're already very congested parking-wise. So would there be a limit on the number of people for these events that we have in mind?
There absolutely will be a limit. I'm not exactly sure. I'm assuming less than 150 for sure. But I don't have that number exactly on me right now.
My name's Carol Alexander. I own the architecture firm, and we're just supporting the distillery. The occupancy availability is for what, okay, so this was a car retail space, right? And where the bar or gift shop is going to be is where the showroom was. It's very small. So the occupancy capacity is very limited. 50 people, maybe 75. You add the greenhouse in that, you're still looking at a very limited number of people that can each be in the greenhouse. So when we're talking about events, like, this isn't gonna be a big blowout, like, till like midnight, right? This is gonna be a controlled environment with small groups, maybe like small business parties or like small adult birthday parties, like that kind of stuff. So we're looking at like 50, 75, maybe 100.
I'm sure the fire department will also help you decide.
They
Yeah,
will.
and it also depends on the code, right? What does the code allow, depending on the size of the building? And the fire department will definitely be involved in that as we further along in the actual design.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Other questions? Motions?
Okay.
Motion to approve is submitted.
All right.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Chair votes aye, that is approved. I think a distillery greenhouse is going to be a unique operation, and we're excited, so thank you. All right, next, item 10, application for conditional use permit by Jake's Liquor to operate a food truck business located at 2019 South Business Drive. Jeff, staff report?
Yeah, so, under our current ordinance, they're allowed to operate a food truck 12 days a year temporarily on the site. With their application for conditional use, being zoned neighborhood commercial, a food truck is allowed under the conditional use status.
All right, is the applicant here? Do you have additional comments you'd like to add or address any of the neighbors' concerns? No? Okay. Questions from commission members? Mike?
Yeah, I would like to hear a response or how those issues will get mitigated, specifically the parking issues, garbage, traffic, hours of operation, the things that were addressed by the neighbors.
For all my garbage, my food is for take out, or all food is everything. My garbage in the food truck, I have two cans for garbage inside my food truck. I put all days in my pickup. I take in my home in the garbage. My for hour is the 5 p.m. to 12 p.m. a.m. To Wednesday, Tuesday, and Friday. Friday is the 2 a.m. Saturday 2 a.m. The Sunday closed at 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. is closed.
Mike, yep.
Yeah, as more of a follow-up to the city staff, is there any restriction on the hours of operation for a food truck like this? Or is there, I know that was a concern that was brought up.
There's nothing there that just states or restrict hours of operation.
Okay.
Jerry, then Kim.
Yeah, my concern, I don't think, what I'm hearing, the concern isn't necessarily with you, it's the operator of the site. You really can't control a lot of what's going on around you if you're just parking there. So I think the concerns that we're hearing are less about you as an operator and more about where you're going. And that becomes the overarching issue here. Unfortunately, they're not here, so we can't address that with them. So we're dealing with you going to a property that has issues currently, and that's a problem.
Okay.
Okay, Kim?
Yes, I agree. The issues that are being brought up aren't exactly your problem. So don't think that we're thinking that. May I ask, how much business do you get between midnight and 2 a.m.?
Sorry, repeat.
How much business do you see between midnight and 2 a.m. when you're open, and on Saturday nights?
Yeah, Friday to Saturday.
Like, do you get hundreds of people?
Yeah, no. No, I'm sorry, my English is little. Is possible I use translator? No have problem for this?
Sure.
Nice.
No es tanta. No, o sea, son como alrededor de 15, 10 personas.
Okay.
Okay. My suggestion would be find a different site.
All right, Joe?
A question to city staff on the concerns that we've heard with this location, if there are things the city can be doing to follow up on those, since those are concerns that have been raised independent of this applicant. Just trying to break down for myself what I would be or wouldn't be supporting here.
Sure. Director Zeiner?
Yes, the planning staff can meet with the applicant to discuss different options if that's something that the plan commission wants to move forward with. But the hope is today is that you you analyze the site brought before you.
Sir, you had another comment? You want to?
So far, my name is Jose Villavicencio. I don't have nothing to do with the business. I have a small company too. And my concern about that trailer, that food truck is how many people that are drunk overnight run to the bathroom when they order food. They run to the alley trying to do the party. The other concern is like they threw the bottles. I had kids with the bicycles in the alley playing around, and I got my vehicles. Those things, I don't like it. I'm the one or part of my neighbors cleaning the alley, and I'm not allowed to leave my kids playing around. That's not his fault. What about the bathroom? I told the guy, the other food truck, a couple of times already, please put a portable toilet. They never listen to me. They have a bathroom. I'm like, why you don't make the bathroom public? Those things, me via father, they're concern me. It's nothing about the business, nothing about this, like, make sure this is not a place for food or, I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous. Like people run in my property and pee in my property. I have automatic lights. For the lights, I have a couple of times a guy with the pants down. I'm like, what's going on, you know? I mean, that's my concerns about bathroom, garbage, bottles. You know, it's not about who opened the business around the corner. It's how or who buy the food there. They don't care, you know? And this is only my concern. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if some of the neighbors just want to hang tight after the meeting so we can just get yeah, well, let's chat, yeah. And other than that, other discussion on this matter? Braden?
I'll just note that the zoning is neighborhood commercial district, so it's not like it's supposed to be urban commercial or suburban, it says neighborhood, it is right next to residential properties, as we think about this. Once again, like, support the idea of a food truck and a small business, but that site, not having the owner of that site here to be able to discuss these issues. I think when we look at the kind of code as it is, where you can have a food truck operate for 12 days, makes sense in those shorter stints. So I live right by Vorath Park where the food truck rallies happen all summer long. Because that's a limited time, a limited day, I have not seen those same negative impacts, even though there aren't porta potties and things like that. But given that this is operating late into the evening and year-round, I think that's why we start to see some of those impacts, and that's probably why we have to go through this extra layer of approval here, because that's just not something that a food truck's set up to be able to handle as a full-time, full hours, year-round kind of level of customer base. So I definitely have some hesitations with this site, especially because the owner of the site isn't here to have some of the discussions around our code concerns and the impacts to the neighbors that we're seeing.
All right. Other questions? Motions?
Move to deny.
There's been a motion to deny and a second. Any further discussion on the motion to deny? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving to deny, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, chair votes aye, that is denied. All right, next, item 11, application for conditional use permit by Wild Card Food LLC to operate a food business located at 1301 Michigan Avenue. Jeff, staff report?
So the applicant's proposed use is permitted under conditional use. It's currently zoned Central Commercial District. Our only concern was that the applicant had proposed painting their brand logo on the side of the building. That's not permitted under our current zoning ordinance, but we would work with the applicant on the sign package. For that, they would have to come back and apply for permits.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. Just for clarification, there is an affixed space that already exists on that building where there was signage that was just painted over for years. That is the space in which I intend to use for signage moving forward.
Is that a sign, or is that?
Yes, originally when that was installed from.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Sean Office, I'm the owner of the building.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, so when we looked at that, we noticed that it's a space, and it's not an actual sign. If that was an actual sign, you could be allowed to reuse that, but since it's just a space, you would have to put a new sign on there, in that space. You're talking about the space right in front, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, affixed right to the corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the space that, and I just want to get clarification
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That space that was a sign that's painted over and was etched out and everything, that no longer constitutes a sign.
Right, if it doesn't have the structural components of an actual sign, if it's just a space, then that would be, you would have to get a new sign for that.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I just want to push back here because there are fees that I've been levied for signs. And if that's not a sign, what am I being levied fees for?
Lene.
You are actually receiving projection sign fees for the marquee, the overhang over your public sidewalk, because it encroaches on that. So it's not so much a projection sign, it's the marquee that is encroached on the public sidewalk.
The former electronic open sign that's right beneath that overhead.
The roofed over area,
Yep,
that is what it is.
okay.
Other question, I guess, any additional comments you'd like to add about your proposed business or any additional commentary you'd have?
No, just pretty simple social club. It's something new. We are a crypto-focused food club that plans to just distribute something a little bit larger than CSA boxes, as well as other amenities. And there'll be an on-staff doctor and other, I guess, accoutrements that'll go with membership to our club. That's about it.
Jerry?
You weren't here for the comments from the neighboring property owner that he had beforehand, so I'll just kind of summarize for you. The concern was the layout of the building and the proposed use. Can you walk us through in as much detail as you can without going on for an hour, what the plan is and what it looks like. If I'm walking in as a patron of your building, what am I walking into?
Well, there won't be any public patrons walking into our building. You will have to have
Paid member.
You'll have to buy a membership, which they'll start at $500 a year. There is no off the street walking in. There may be some public events, maybe a couple times a year for what we plan on doing with philanthropy and donating and cooking hot food for people in need. But aside from that, there is no public access.
And then is it, well, it's once I'm inside as a member, what am I doing? Is kind of what we're looking for as far as the proposed use.
So there will be a number of events that take place, mostly centered around Wisconsin farmers. So highlighting a lot of the stuff that is essentially 95% of the products that we plan to display, cook, highlight are from Wisconsin. And we just want to highlight Wisconsin farmers in a small, I guess, food club. And there's a little bit of exclusivity to that, but that's sort of it. It's still expanding. There's a number of benefits that we're working on. We're looking at purchasing a hangar here at Sheboygan Airport, as well as in Eau Claire with some friends and sort of starting a small airline that's associated. There's lots of people doing business between here and Eau Claire, and that's sort of what we intend to do here. There's just a number of benefits, nothing, I guess, that I'm looking to highlight in this forum.
Okay.
Kim?
You mentioned having an on-site doctor.
Mm-hmm.
What is that for if you're not open for the public?
Longevity services for our members. So they'll get discounted medical services like CT scans, blood work, and these are just benefits of our club.
And again, explain what this membership is.
Well,
I'm not getting it.
Well, and I guess I'm going to jump in while you think about that. I guess for the zoning administrator, maybe city attorney, is medical, I guess, where does medical practices or medical stuff, if you will, fit in to this property, or is that a whole nother application process? City attorney?
Thanks. There's a lot to unpack with this proposal. At the foundational level, I'll say that gaming is strictly regulated by the state of Wisconsin, and it is limited to certain facilities like casinos, racetracks, those sorts of things. The city doesn't have any authority to allow for a state-regulated or a federally regulated gaming facility outside of those parameters. Regarding the medical care on site, that also is strictly regulated by the state and by the federal government. I don't believe that, I'd have to ask Elise to look at the zoning code. I'm aware that there are some other like medical office style facilities on Michigan Avenue. I think there's a dermatology facility and maybe like a walk-in clinic. I think that the zoning permission for that is specific to the nature of the services. So you obviously don't want to have like a surgical center, which would have different equipment requirements than, you know, just like a quick in-person appointment with a care provider, outpatient style. Then there were questions about, I believe, the nature of the private club, like what kind of permits and things would be required. The city has regulations on private clubs. The state has regulations on alcohol beverage service specific to private clubs. So that would be implicated. Depending on the nature of the activities taking place on site, some of those activities may also be further regulated without, I know Mr. Office said he wasn't interested in sharing a lot of the on-site activities, so I can't speak to that in more detail, but I would need a little more information to give an opinion on those issues.
May I?
Sure.
Okay. I listed that we were planning on doing about 5 services, where most people here are just listing restaurants. So I think I elaborated pretty clearly that we expect in the long term to be a benefit-heavy, resource-rich group. That doesn't mean that that's what we are right at the moment. If I need to come back before the committee for any of those other attributes that I had mentioned throughout my dialogue here, then that's fine. But I would much rather move forward with my food club, which is the initial idea that brings me here today.
Right, Joe?
I'm assuming that all the business stuff would be all per legal requirements and city requirements. My bigger concern is, A, it's wonderful that this building's been vacant and an eyesore for so long, is potentially seeing a new use, but I'm a little disappointed that you're looking to invest so little in the improvements to the exterior of the building. Right now, as was mentioned, it is a bit of an eyesore. I would hope that new ownership moving into it would want to take more pride in the building and invest in fixing it up. Do you have thoughts for doing that, or at least long-term?
Yep, and I just want to make sure that I highlight that I'm always, that I'm self-financed. I don't ask anybody for money. So everything that I do is coming out of my pocket. And yes, I do intend to, as I own that building, make changes over the lifetime of it, or the lifetime of my ownership at least, especially some bigger things in the next year or so. But as I said before, when you're financing things out of your own pocket and not asking the city for any assistance, you can run into some headwinds.
Braden?
Mine's more procedural for staff. So one of the concerns from the neighborhood was about the condition of the building. Regardless of how we vote today, there would still need to be a permit of occupancy granted based on the building being in good repair, correct?
City Attorney?
Thanks. Yes, there would need to be an occupancy permit. The building's been vacant for an extended period of time. Also, in order to be granted that permit, it would be based upon the nature of the use the building is being put to. So if he's going to be offering food services to his patrons, he's going to need to have a commercial kitchen, and that will need to be inspected from an HVAC, plumbing, layout, all of that standpoint. I would be incredibly surprised if a commercial kitchen could be constructed for under $1,000. Then you're also looking at the food service area, and that would have to be reviewed and permitted to make sure that it is safe and compliant to the patrons. I don't know if our code enforcement staff has been inside this building in many years, so I don't know what else would be at play here, but an occupancy permit generally requires a fair degree of renovation. And I think this building used to be a bar. I'm not positive. I'm seeing a couple nods, maybe, I'm not sure.
Been many things.
It's been many things. So then you're also considering a potential change of use, right? And that triggers a different degree of review than just an ownership change from one restaurant to the next without much gap in between.
Got it. Thank you.
So in the conversations that I've had with city staff previously, they have highlighted that they have been aware that this has been a bar for years. So it seems like the city has that's the understanding. That's what the neighbors have as an understanding for that building. I don't understand why this would be we're not deviating from the original use.
Elise?
I haven't had conversations with Mr. Office regarding the previous use of this building as a bar. It is my understanding that it's been vacant for a long time and will need those occupancy inspections.
What's the typical period of time something needs to be vacant? No one's listed the amount of time that it's been vacant, yet everyone's quoting that there's some sort of, is there something in the code that highlights this?
1 year is the vacancy period. There's also some allowance for changes of use that trigger an occupancy permit.
Okay.
The city attorney, did you have additional commentary?
No, Elise covered it.
All right, thank you. Questions from commissioners, motions by commissioners.
Prior to those motions, I'd like to ask if I own this building and in what capacity, as the rules are written right now with the city attorney present, and without providing me legal advice, how can I use the property that I own? Aside from put signs on it that are unsavory?
Frankly, that is the question, right? This property has been vacant for such an extended period of time that its current use is vacant. And in order to use it for something different, you're going to have to do substantial renovations most likely to make it fit for that use. The city is eager for this building to be repurposed, and we look forward to working with you in whatever capacity you desire to move forward with this idea or other ideas.
That didn't really answer my question.
I think that conversation would be better had with staff offline. We can talk through.
They're getting ready to go to motion, so before I walk out of here, I want to understand, is my property mine, or is it subject to you telling me what I can do in it?
Yes to both of those questions. It is your
It
property.
can't be yes to both.
Yes, it is your property subject to local, county, state, regional, federal regulations. We can quibble about that, but that's not appropriate for this meeting.
Once again, I just want to highlight that we're getting ready to go to motion, and you haven't highlighted what I can do with my building, how I can use it. They've stood in the way of me, I guess, activating my electricity even on the building. So I'm a little confused as to, it's not quibbling, but everyone's here that makes the rules. I would imagine that someone would be able to tell me what the rule is.
Joe?
So a change of occupancy typically is going to kick in the International Existing Building Code as a level 3 change of occupancy use, which means that pretty much everything that's being touched has to be brought up to all the current codes. It was mentioned the kitchen. That has all sorts of requirements to it that can be very expensive. Yes, you own the building. You have a choice what you do and don't want to do with it, but everything you do to it does have to meet all of those codes and regulations. And you have to comply with those before you can get your occupancy permit to be able to actually move in and start doing things.
Okay.
All right.
One more thing.
Sure.
All right. Typically, I guess these sorts of things from the previous meetings I've watched go into closed session. Since you guys want to see any sort of substantial work done in the building, you have such keen interest in its improvement, I'd like to ask the city for a loan if you guys want to go into closed session and discuss it.
Well, we can't do that right now because it's not duly posted on the agenda, but staff here can connect you and get you some resources for stuff like that.
Okay.
All right. Any, Joe?
I would like to clarify that if a motion is put forward that we approve you proceeding with things, it is subject to all of the staff conditions that are listed in the agenda. So all of those compliances with codes and permitting, we're giving you the okay to move forward to get all of those things
Conditionally.
done.
Yes, sir. Still just wanted to make sure I got my clarification.
Nope, that's what we're here for.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. All right, other questions, motions? All right, there's been a motion. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval, state aye. Any objections? Chair, one objection. Chair votes aye. That is approved. All right. Next.
Good evening.
Yep, thank you. Next, item 12, general ordinance number 352526 by Alder Close, updating various sections of the Sheboygan Municipal Code so as to relocate the zoning-related boards and commissions. Director Zeiner. Oh, no. Oh, never mind. Not Director Zeiner. Who's taking this one? Jeff, Elise? Sam, is this you? Oh, Elise, okay, sorry.
We need to get that up.
Yeah.
So there were some portions of the zoning ordinance that contained information regarding different commissions, boards, committees, that sort of thing. Those are being moved from the zoning ordinance to the proper section, Chapter 2 of the Sheboygan Municipal Code.
Cool. Questions? Joe?
So, big picture, the entire ordinance is being rewritten. Are these sections also going to be rewritten in the new ordinance? Or are these changes to be adopted as part of the new ordinance?
City Attorney.
Hi, thanks. So we brought this forward today so that it could be approved concurrent with the zoning ordinance change. Because the current plans, or the current boards and commissions that are within Chapter 105, those subsections will no longer be in the new zoning code. So this is a partner to that.
So this language will carry forward into the new ordinance?
The language, no. So the boards and commissions ordinance, those subsections of proposed additional language is being migrated to Chapter 2, which is the chapter where the Sheboygan Municipal Code discusses the various boards and commissions and bodies of the city. So for organizational consistency, the boards and commissions that used to be like developed within 105, all of that language is migrating over to Chapter 2. The new zoning code, it's not going to be 105, but whatever the number is for the new zoning code is really just going to talk about the procedures, the administration, the zoning districts, the meat and potatoes of zoning.
Okay. So then a question back to staff on the historic preservation section specifically. Was the current Historic Preservation Commission consulted on the changes in the language?
I did not. Did anyone in planning? So to be clear, there
Director-
are very minimal changes to the language. It was largely just a cut and paste. Where there were changes were more to fit into the structure of the zoning or of the new ordinance within Chapter 2. So what I mean by that is we were limited in how many subsections we could create because of the numerical system of the code. So I would consolidate sections to make sure that all of the language from the old Historic Preservation Commission ordinance was transferred over to the new. There's a section that talks about like demolition, right? That got bundled over into the new, and wherever there were changes in the actual language, it was just to facilitate that transfer over. There was nothing substantively changed. Their procedures, their scope of authority, all of that is consistent.
Director Zeiner?
To kind of go off of that, to echo Elise's point, Historical Preservation Committee has not had a quorum, so we have not been able to notify them nor discuss any of the non-changes that Attorney Majerus described.
Thank you, Joe. Follow-up?
So will that commission have the opportunity to weigh in on this? I know that there are current, more recent state statutes that aren't addressed in the current language. There aren't references to National Register criteria, things that we might expect to be in there. I guess I want to make sure if we are changing things and language is getting modified in here, that we take the opportunity to get the right parties involved to make sure it's done properly.
City Attorney?
Yes, my preference would have been that when we make this transfer over from 105 to 2, that we meet with the board, that we identify other changes that they wanted, because I'm aware a board member brought to my attention a year or two ago that they wanted to make some changes to their regulations. But we haven't been able to do that. They don't have a quorum for the board yet. So what this does is it's a temporary fix. It takes what we have, it moves it over, it gives us time to adopt the new zoning code, and then once we have the Historical Plan Commission ready to reconvene, we can work through whatever changes they want, and we can address those in Chapter 2, and Chapter 105 stays unimpacted by that.
Okay. Wendy, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm Wendy Schobert, and I'm just the acting chair for the commission. To answer your question, no, we didn't really know about this, and she is correct. We haven't had a quorum. We're lacking a member. So we did not have a quorum, but it was brought to our attention by a friend of the commission. So we were able to kind of page through it today. Attorney Peter Mayer had also had a chance to look at it. He said there was something that was missing if it were to go forward the way it was written. I know you're only doing the moves tonight, but there was something about us losing some jurisdiction over already landmarked buildings in the city. So that really needs to be looked at. I'm hoping that we do have a commission, or a quorum for this coming month so that we can maybe put this on our agenda and have a chance to look it over. And yes, it was brought up about having it kind of align with the national and also with the state, to contact the state too. So it's more inclusive, more professional looking. So that's all I have.
Cool.
Thank
Kim?
you.
Could you please remind me, I thought I remember City Administrator Bradley coming in and talking to the commission, and I thought the point of that was saying that this commission was being dissolved and being brought in under the Plan Commission. Could that be straightened out for me, please?
Sure. I wasn't part of that conversation. I know that there's broader discussion about streamlining the numbers of boards and commissions that the city has. This document before you doesn't make any of those big changes. This is really just a status quo. It just moves the bucket from one side of the table to the other. If there are other conversations about eliminating that board or consolidating it with the Plan Commission, that would be a whole separate discussion.
Elise, do you happen to remember?
Yes, Administrator Bradley did meet with the Historic Preservation Commission. It was not discussed that the Historic Preservation Commission would be dissolved or absorbed into Plan Commission in any way. It was more of an introduction of Administrator Bradley to the Historic Preservation Commission and kind of what his vision would look like as far as historic preservation within the city.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other comments or motions? Moved and seconded to approve. Final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval state aye. Aye. Any objection? Chair votes aye. That is approved. All right, next, item 13, discussion regarding the City of Sheboygan's chapter rewrite. Zoning chapter rewrite. Sam, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Now to the exciting part of the meeting, right? The zoning. What we have in front of you tonight is kind of the last big tranche of information to go through. That is the administration and procedures section of the code. This reminding you all of the project goals that we started the whole project with. In relation to administration procedures, a lot of it is staff review for by right decisions, reduce legal uncertainty, and get more kind of objective standards in as opposed to subjective standards in. And also, we've talked about this before, but reminding you between 2017 Wisconsin Act 67 and 2023 Wisconsin Act 16, the city's ability to regulate things via conditional use, as well as how the city regulates by right housing developments have been modified over the last 10 years. So we're trying to move forward with those changes to state law that have been in effect since the last time your code was rewritten. So you can see here we've gone through districts, uses, citywide site design regulations, and the appendices, and we're just left with procedures and administration. So I'll walk you through all of those. Please feel free to stop me at any point. We're just gonna kind of go section by section as we have in the past. A lot of them read very similarly because they're just kind of administration procedures. So if you have any,
Jerry's got a quick question.
Just for purposes of expediency, these folks have to sit through this because they need to wait to see you guys. I don't think they want to sit through this. Is there someone that can talk with them offline so they don't have to wait through this? It's a tough one. Okay, great, just so you guys don't have to sit through that. Sorry about that, thank you.
I can't imagine why anyone would
Thank you,
want
Jerry.
to sit through this.
It's an us thing. Thanks, Jerry.
There is nothing more exciting than administration procedures. All right, so the first sections, please, like I said, interrupt me at any point if you have questions. The first is introduction level section. So this establishes the code, its title, authority to administer zoning throughout the city, the effective date, which will be the date that the ordinance is adopted, its purpose and design, which are largely carried over from your existing code with some kind of modern updates, a little bit more emphasis on things like pedestrian focus and things like that. And then the district transition tables, which just discusses if a district was called X in the old code, it's now called Y. So we kind of have that crosswalk, which you can see on the zoning map that was also provided to you. Because we're doing a little bit of consolidation in those districts, kind of creates a cleaner zoning map. And we'll get to that at the very end. Application of the code. So this is kind of the boring legal stuff where we just talk about really language interpretation, jurisdiction, how if someone is going to say, was this meant to be plural and does that matter? It kind of gets into the nitty-gritty detail of like the actual language of the code, as well as, if any part of it's found to be illegal, the rest of it still stands, that kind of boilerplate stuff. 1.03 Review and Decision-Making Authority sets up two major points that the code refers to throughout the rest of the chapters. That is the zoning administrator, which is essentially the title we've deemed for the person responsible for administering all sections of the code. So there's not various different like subtitles or people, and it sets the city administrator as the zoning administrator, and they can delegate it as they so choose. So it'll be a mixture of staff, most likely.
Yeah, Joe? Item B, the form of application, it talks about all applicants must include the materials, including at least the following, and then goes on to list a lot of things that.
Can you tell me what section you're in? Sorry.
I'm in. Oh, maybe I'm getting ahead. I thought I was in 103, but it looks like I'm in 104. Sorry, we'll hold that till we get to 104.
No worries. We'll get to that in a sec. I think I know where you're going. But I did want to highlight, so we established the zoning administrator, and then the review and decision-making authority table. So this just sets who's responsible for reviewing, making recommendations, or who is the decision maker and how they appeal those processes. So it's kind of all clarified in that one simple table. Going to common application procedures. So form of application, question?
Just the reference to include at least the following in the applications, things like environmental reports and traffic studies. A lot of projects won't need those, and I just want to make sure that we're not burdening small projects with unnecessary costs that they shouldn't have to provide.
Yeah, I think the important part is kind of the last part of that sentence, as required by the zoning chapter or application checklist established by the official responsible party for accepting the application. So, yeah, if it's needed or elsewhere in the chapter, if it says a traffic impact analysis required in these specific circumstances, that would take precedence, but otherwise the staff is essentially empowered through the administrator to set applicable checklists. And that really gets to being flexible over time as things change. You might have online permitting systems or change online permitting systems or want to change what's, and part of an application procedure. They don't need to amend the zoning ordinance every time they want to update that. They can just make those amendments as they see fit. And it all gets to their ability, as we'll get into a little bit later on, to establish essentially zoning compliance review. So they're empowered to ask for anything they feel is needed to ensure that an application meets all the regulations of the zoning code.
I totally agree with the as required part of it. I would just question that language of including at least the following, because that seems to require that all of those should be provided. So just clarifying that would be appreciated.
Sure. Okay, moving on. The next section is those common application procedures as we've begin to discuss. This also goes into things like fees, completeness, accuracy, and sufficiency. So we have a little bit of language here about incomplete application. Someone can't just drop like a crayon drawing off and say, it's a complete application, you have 30 days to approve it, something like that. It's not the shot clocks established in here, when they exist, do not start until the zoning administrator deems it a full and complete application. They pay a fee, that type of thing. They're also empowered to deny applications as they see fit based on, if they meet the regulations of the zoning code. It establishes when notices are required, which is pretty much set by state statute. How public hearing rules can be, the body can establish rules for public hearings. The staff are empowered to create conditions of approval if they feel as if they need to in specific circumstances. The burden of proof is on applicants, and it also empowers staff when procedures have changed between the old zoning and the new zoning. This empowers staff to approve changes, for example, to a minor landscaping plan without needing to go back in front of the Plan Commission when they otherwise might have had to under the previous zoning code. Then we get into the types of applications that we have. So zoning text amendments, those are changes to the code itself. Zoning ordinances and laws are treated differently under Wisconsin statute than normal common council ordinances, mainly in that they need a public hearing and go through a recommendation from you all as well. So it establishes the process to go through that. They're all pretty simple. You'll notice in a lot of these sections, we also delineate the authority to initiate a zoning text amendment. So, for example, a zoning map amendment, the general public property owner has the ability to petition the city to change the zoning map. However, the general public does not have the ability to petition the city to change the zoning text. They would have to get one of you all as the Plan Commission to work through the Plan Commission to request that change, or go to one of their elected alders to request that change in front of the Common Council, who would then start that process. So it's not intended to be a burden, but it's also changing zoning ordinances is a complicated legal process. So they should go kind of through the proper representative democracy processes and procedures to make those things happen. Moving on, we have zoning map amendments, pretty similar here in that, they go through more or less the same processes and procedures, recommendations, plan commissions, public hearings, and a decision by the Common Council. Again, you all are a recommending body in those situations per the state statutes. It also, you'll notice in some of these, there are limitations on successive applications. So if the Common Council denies someone, they can't just come back over and over again. So they can't submit a substantively similar application within a year of the Common Council denying them. And frankly, due to the use consolidations and the district consolidations, that becomes a lot more important. As the Common Council makes a zoning decision, when there's more districts, they might be able to kind of, under the current code, like sidestep into a different district and accomplish essentially the same use or goal, just kind of through loopholes or ducking and weaving through the zoning ordinance. But because we've consolidated those, it really emphasizes that zoning map decisions are the primary way that the Common Council should be deciding what uses are appropriate for any given property. Next, we have zoning compliance review. And this just sets the process for what, a lot of communities commonly consider like site plan review or landscaping plan review or all these types of things. We jump it all together into zoning compliance review. And that's really just the zoning administrator shall review any applications and permits which may have an implication for a zoning regulation for zoning compliance. And then we also note it's the Plan Commission's responsibility to undertake zoning compliance review when the state statutes require it, and or the local ordinance requires it. So the most common ones would be for things like land divisions, which are specifically called out, changes to public buildings, which are called out by statute, discontinuances of easements, alleyways, public rights of way, all those types of issues, as well as planned unit developments and kind of those more complicated individual development districts too.
Sam, question on that one, on the requirement for the zoning administrator must review all building permits. I think you said they can delegate that. So right now, a lot of small things just go to building inspection to grant the permits.
Yes.
It's saying before the building inspector can issue a permit, the zoning administrator has to review it.
Yeah, and frankly, for 75% of permits that come in the door, that's probably just going to be like, we don't need to sign off on it because it doesn't impact a zoning regulation. If someone's doing an interior electrical remodel, there's nothing in the zoning code that discusses that. So, 7 out of 10 times, it's probably just going to be either a thumbs up or an I don't even need to look at this. It's really just changes of use, exterior changes to buildings, things that we discussed when we were talking about that site design standards chapter a few months ago. Next up, we specifically call out sign permits as well. Those are in there. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see, it was also in your packet, but those kind of graphical sections, they're not all that complicated, especially for a sign permit, but how people go through the process. So we're trying to kind of graphically show that as well. Appeals and variances is a fairly big one in statute. Wisconsin statutes require that you set up a board of appeals for any community that administers a zoning code. So this discusses that. The Board of Appeals is established in the text that we just talked about for the previous amendment. It's getting moved up to the rest of the committees and boards, but how they go through the process is still within the zoning ordinance. And so they hear a bunch of appeals that are delineated here and by state statute. One of the changes that we made to this in consultation with staff and the city attorney is to limit some of the appeals that the city might hear. And those are common recommendations that we put in a lot of communities. So things like use variances, the city will no longer hear use variances. So you can't apply to go to the Board of Appeals and be like, I want to put an industrial property in the middle of this residential neighborhood. That's just not something that that the Board of Appeals is allowed to consider under these updated ordinances. We included those in that list for a variety of reasons. Oftentimes it's because while we love our boards of appeals, particularly because they're citizen-led boards, it's very difficult for them to say no, perhaps when they should legally. I always say 99% of the time they should be saying no. It's a fairly high bar to actually grant appeal legally or a variance. They're oftentimes nicer than that. So with the things that we identified that they cannot or no longer can hear are the ones that would be like, this is an absolute worst case scenario where really, for example, in a use variance situation, someone should be petitioning the Common Council through you all and your recommendation to just change the zoning district instead of sidestepping that and going to the Board of Appeals. There are very limited circumstances, even nationally, where anyone should receive a use variance. The other situations that we have in here are fairly similar to that. So for example, pulling out another one, you're not allowed to seek a variance to waive, modify, or otherwise vary any of the review and approval procedures in here. So you can't seek a variance from needing a permit type of thing, which would be an interesting discussion, but not one that I think is worth the Board of Appeals' valuable time. Moving on, we have planned development districts. These existed or were called PUDs under your old code.
Sorry, Sam, can we back up to item Q under the previous heading?
Sure.
Administrative adjustments.
Oh, yes, sorry, I should have mentioned that.
There was just language in there, or density restrictions for a structure by up to 10%. Is that related just to the density restrictions, or does that 10% apply to all of those previously described dimensions, physical location requirements, setbacks? Is the 10% just being applied to that one piece, or is that supposed to cover all of them?
No, they would have to apply for each individual piece they wanted an administrative adjustment for. So you couldn't come in and say, like, I want 10% flexibility for an entire property. The intent is that if you have a 5-foot setback and someone needs a little bit of flexibility, taking that to the Board of Appeals for less than half a foot is oftentimes something that all the neighbors don't care about. They agree with if they're talking to their neighbors and being a good neighbor, and it's not something that the public would ever notice from the street. So there's this kind of expedited variance process where the staff, the neighbor can notify all their neighbors, give evidence of what they want to accomplish. There's a waiting period for 10 days, and if the staff don't receive any complaints from neighbors, they're allowed to approve those minor variations to the code. And it's really just meant for those kind of small-scale items that to not clog up a Board of Appeals meeting and have a formal public hearing and all that kind of stuff.
Thanks.
In the communities where we've instituted those, it makes the staff very happy and it makes the Board of Appeals very happy. And it also makes the attorneys very happy because they don't have to show up to a meeting and say, technically you should deny this because it's a user-created hardship, even though everyone in the room is like, we don't really care about this at all. So it's helping to provide that just a little bit of flexibility in those situations. Plan development districts, this is a carryover from your old code. We update it to plan development districts just because that's how the statutes refer to them. But essentially, it allows the city to create individual zoning districts for very specific uses or structures. And there's pros and cons to this process. We always want to include the procedures in there, but general planning practice has been to reduce reliance on plan development districts. There are a lot of cities that have started to overly rely on them, mostly because their existing zoning ordinance is so out of date that it becomes inflexible, and so they just create a plan development district to deal with that problem. Well, we're rewriting the entire code, so we didn't want people just to default back to that situation. So one of the things in here we did was create some additional requirements in addition to the ones that you already had. So we kept many of the quality of design requirements, consistency with the comprehensive plan, going above and beyond to protect natural areas. Things like that were already in your code. But we also added a specific section about necessity that says before creating a plan development district, the Common Council shall first consider whether amending the existing zoning text could accomplish the purpose of the development without adversely affecting the health, safety, or welfare of the city. So we just wanted them to take that kind of double check to be like, can we accomplish this? And should we, like, if something is broken, should we be fixing the underlying problem? Or if for some reason, the staff probably gets annoyed with me using this example, but if Lambeau Field wants to relocate to Sheboygan, that's probably a development that needs
then we would say yes.
a development district. And so, in those circumstances, you probably want to create some special zoning rules for it. The other things that we did with plan development districts is just re-refer to them as they are really just updates to zoning text and map. They're not this kind of separate side process, and in many communities, they struggle on the staff side to keep track of them over time. I've worked in communities where we know there's a plan development district that was created 30 years ago and we can't find the underlying regulations. So it's like if a tree falls in the forest situation, does the plan development district even exist? So this requires that when a plan development district is created, that the zoning administrator amend the zoning text to put those new regulations into the text. So they're on the city website and everything else. They're on the front page. Everyone can refer to them. And it really places the importance that you are, in effect, creating a new zoning district every time you go through a PDD. Next up, we addressed nonconformities. There were some minor changes to state law, really just to broaden when nonconformities happen. So this allowed us to kind of simplify the local regulations that you have. And it's kind of the conversation that we just had. If a use or structure remains vacant for 12 months or more, the city can, discontinue that nonconformity, and someone has to go through the whole process to reestablish a use and meet all the codes and regulations at that time. However, if that use is discontinued for less than 12 months and someone looks to reestablish it, that nonconformity per state statute is allowed to kind of wind back up again without going through the full process. And that nonconformity runs with the land. It's not owner specific. Moving on to certificates of occupancy, this is pretty straightforward. Also required in your existing code, just, changes to use, structure, things like that requires updating certificates of occupancy. So the city has updated COs on file for any kind of major changes that you have. Fees, the city can charge fees. It can also pass on the fees of professional consultant review services, something that's near and dear to my heart. But for large projects and other things, the general taxpayer should not have to take those. So if the city engineering staff, for example, is reviewing 16 plats at once and it needs a private engineering firm just to step in and assist getting through those reviews, they can do that without and pass on those fees by ordinance to those applicants as necessary. So it establishes that. Enforcement and penalties, that's all pretty much carried over from your existing code. You can ticket people for not following the zoning ordinance and then put that on their taxes if they decide not to pay those tickets. Get put in jail if needed, the kind of standard if you don't follow the law type of thing. That's about it. For the administration procedure section, we have made some other updates since October when I was last year, both in following some of the conversations that we've had, following some conversations that we've had with the mayor, and as well as some conversations that we've continued to have with the staff and the city attorney. So just kind of trying to clean up those final items. Some of those things that we've done since October are the zoning map that you find in your packet. Personally, I think it looks pretty great. My bar for looking, does a zoning map look good, is when I read this district and where it's applied, does that generally make sense? And what I notice when looking at the zoning map is a lot of the districts that we've titled corridor actually show up in corridors, and you can see those color changes. So it's a good indication that we're right on line. It may not be perfect, and over time, I'm sure there'll be property owners that need a zoning change, but generally, I think we're right about there for the zoning map, which is good. We reduced some setbacks just by a foot for some staff, per some staff recommendations from 6 to 5 feet in some areas. We allowed greater heights in the urban downtown zoning district. Specifically, the mayor was a little bit concerned that we are overly limiting height in the downtown district. So we still have some contextual height limits, but we do allow some greater heights there now. We simplified and expanded when 2 units may be allowed on a single lot. We had a lot of discussion about ADUs and housing affordability and broadening housing choice last time. And after consulting with staff, we just decided to go kind of the simplest route, which is on most lots, 2 units are available. So if you have an existing single-family home, that means you could add an accessory dwelling unit or attached or detached. If you have a vacant lot, you could build a single-family home or a duplex. If you want to add essentially a duplex unit to a home, you could. So it's like structure agnostic is the way I would put it. You get up to 2 units, and those units have to meet the setback limitations, the height limitations, all the other zoning compliance regulations of it, and you get 2. And that's kind of the easiest way to accomplish most of those goals without writing very specific. For building X, it has to look like this, and building Y, it has to look like that. We find this as kind of, ease a lot of burden, and it also directly aligns with the Universal Dwelling Code, which regulates up to 1 and 2 family buildings. So there's nice synergy there, how we kind of aligned the use table with the International Building Code for the remainder. So it also works in tandem with those efforts. Finally, we clarified some use definitions and addressed a couple additional things that we wanted to clearly call out as uses that we wanted to more specifically regulate. Those include convenient cash businesses, which are largely regulated by state statute, so we refer to those and kind of update them there. There are some buffer requirements in the statutes. Accessory dwelling unit regulations, which I just talked about, and some cottage court regulations. We also talked and made some updates to short-term rental regulations, and that's just due to some feedback we had both from the mayor and staff and some of the other conversations that we've had about certain neighborhoods perhaps getting more short-term rentals than they bargained for. So we didn't go as strict as the statutes allow for, but we did ramp up the strictness slightly in many of these areas, kind of take the next step, and to basically, if someone's an owner occupant and is leaving and then leasing their house, they'll have more flexibility to run a short-term rental when they're on vacation or something. But if they are not, that is not their primary residence, then there are stricter limitations of the number of days that people can rent them for fewer than 6 days at a time, which is how the state has us regulate short-term rentals. So kind of taking a moderate approach, I would say, in short-term rentals, which is a little bit more strict than you have now. They still need a permit and all the other requirements that the city was previously requiring as well. And that's about it. Next steps, we are kind of at the final end game here. So later in December, I believe the plan is for the Plan Commission to make a formal recommendation on the zoning text to move it on to Common Council, who would review it in January and make their final decision on amending both the text and the map. And then I always want to end my presentations by emphasizing that this may not be absolutely perfect. So in the meantime, please send me your edits. If you catch typos or have questions, you can send them to staff and they'll get them to me, the mayor, and he'll get them to me, however you want as you're reading this. If constituents reach out, I can try to answer those questions and make minor updates or tweaks as we get to the final draft. But ultimately, no zoning text is perfect, and this should be a living document. So at some point, and I think we're about there, deciding this is a really great big step, and then we'll just have to tweak it as applicants come in as necessary over time. So
cool. Questions for Sam at all? Braden?
So first, thanks for that overview, and the 2 units on a single lot, I agreed, that's the simplest, easiest way to understand. Just this week, I got a couple of calls for people who are looking to add an apartment above a garage, not fully understanding that I'm not the guy that's gonna be the one who approves that, but it was a good note for me that I'd have to go back and look at what you had in here for accessory structure height limits, but that is something that's come up a few times as a detached garage with a unit above it. I think our current zoning code is at 15 feet for an accessory structure, so that would be my one note, is that with the move to make it 2 structures or 2 units of any sort of structure agnostic, making sure that the accessory structure could be either contextual to the primary structure or just a limit that would allow for a unit above a detached garage or something like that would be one way that I think we could get away from any sort of headaches when we start to have applications for that in the future.
Good point.
I will note for ADUs, just in general, I know we talked about this a little bit last time, but particularly for those circumstances, before someone goes too far down that road, my recommendation is always for them to talk to a contractor about the cost it's going to take for them to bring just the existing structure up to code before they would even be able to allow a second story. In my experience, more than 95% of circumstances, it's actually the building code required by the state that's going to be the limiting factor and the cost associated with that more than it is any zoning regulations. So we'll continue to review those. I'll look and talk about accessory structure height with the staff, but 9 times out of 10, an existing garage would probably have to come down. You'd need to completely rebuild it with much more strict residential standards than just accessory structure standards.
Cool. Joe?
I'd just like to commend the city for the process and making all these updates, and thank you, Sam, for explaining it all. I would request that we get a little bit more time to review the documents before the meeting. I had to cancel meetings to be able to have time to read through all of this for today. So for the next submittals, if it's possible to get them to us with a little more time, that would be appreciated.
We are done with major updates. So from here on out, it is whatever you got. We'll make sure to note in kind of final wrap-up report if anything major changes between now and then. But I expect most of it to just be kind of minor tweaks or we misspelled something there, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you have any comments, please let me know.
Any follow-up? No. Anyone else? Braden?
Yeah, I got two more. So one's a question on the approval process and public participation. Is there any plan for a sort of summary, I don't know if this would be you or staff, just for the general public of here's what's happening, here's some of the general changes of like that we're going from all the different types of housing that could be allowed in certain circumstances to 2 units, allowing, you to work with a smaller lot. Is there going to be some sort of like layman's guide to this that would help an average person to understand what's going on?
Yeah, I think yes in 2 different ways. So it's on me to kind of prepare like a final summary memo of kind of the major highlights as you just discussed. But as we've talked about before, we'll continue to help the staff post-adoption on those types of kind of summary explainers or, if you all want to advertise the code in a specific way, we've had communities go out and run like tables to show people. So if you need to draft, that type of like brochure type thing, we can bring that in. There's also areas where we're identifying where increased graphics would help. Many of the graphics in the current code are tough to read or not super helpful or may no longer be applicable. So we're working with city staff as well just to identify those, and you'll see those added in over time too. So what do we mean by a cottage court development, that kind of thing? There'll be a graphic representation of that. So it's like an all of the above.
Got it. Cool. Thanks.
Director Zeiner?
To kind of go off of that, assuming that this gets passed, the city and the planning department does plan on making infographs and informational sessions, acknowledging that planning is something that we love to do, but acknowledging that not everyone knows what a setback is and things of that nature. So we are working on infographs and things of that nature, but that is contingent on this passing.
Got it. Okay, understood.
Cool. Final thoughts from the commission. All right, thank you, Sam. Great. Next meeting is the 23rd. We've exhausted our agenda. What is the pleasure of the commission? Moved and seconded. All those in favor, state aye. Aye. We're adjourned at 5:32.